All right, ladies and gentlemen, our last cast of the day is going to be Neblime versus the Shambler. I promised I would cast this game yesterday when I couldn't get to it because I casted a bunch of Zeki games. So here we are. Neblime in the top right is our Glacial Protoss. This is Radium, a map by Biddy B. The Shambler in the bottom left. He is our Vine Green. No, Dark Spring Green Zerg. I guess I should have known by the name. Shambler has been playing Protoss up until this point, and he switches into Zerg for these last two games after being 3-0'd by Neblime. So, that is the way that it went. That's why the score says 1-0, because he's Zerg. Oh, Shambler. Gateway on the way for Neblime. No surprises there, although he does sometimes like his lattice openers. Shambler going for a Larvosk into a pool opener, no doubt. We'll see what he wants to do. This is obviously way back when, and I wouldn't... Shambler has been out of practice as Zerg at this point, so I wouldn't really expect him to take down Neblime. But I was told that this is the quote-unquote banger game. So I don't really think I'm spoiling, since Shambler himself said that in chat. Maybe it will indeed be a banger game. Or maybe he'll just get Legionnaires again. We'll find out. Hierophant first for Neblime, and he's actually holding on to his second production structure. He'll decide on it later. Neblime was once upon a time a champion. He won a tournament as Terran versus Hamster in a 7-game series, and then the best of 7 versus the Shambler for his Zerg victory was a 4-0 versus Shambler's Protoss. There were some really highlight games on there. If you ever want to watch a particular game, I recommend Fata Morgana. I think that was game 3. And then the game on Titan Forge is also kind of funny because it's like a repeat of what happens on there, but a different outcome a little bit. So Neblime just being annoying with his scribe. Hasn't gotten any worker kills yet. The scout comes in to see the Grand Library, so that'll be information for Shambler, and the Hierophant will clear it out. It's also already kind of information that the Hierophant hasn't moved across the map. And look at that, Neblime actually killed his scribe. I mean... Shambler prone to tilt, or at least prone to type. Surprised he hasn't typed anything about that. Sometimes you don't know. If he types about something, maybe that's his way of kind of like venting it out and then he's no longer tilted. If he doesn't type, maybe that's when you tilted him the most. Hierophant will take the place of the scribe, but there are plenty of Zethar cores, and they're burrowed, so this is a tactic we're seeing a lot of Zergs use. Sometimes Shambler will make like just what are good moves. Like these burrowed Zeths are probably definitely a really cool move, I think. And there's the burrow. Oh, he didn't quite micro them, though. So he makes good strategic moves, but sometimes misses on the micro. And he'll... yes, okay. So at least there's a little bit of type. Losing that Hierophant wouldn't have really been the end of the world, as he does have another one. But you don't want to lose any pressure here as the Protoss. Vorvacors are on the way. I believe the Scribe saw the Vornath Pond start being mutated before it exited with a kill. I was trying to find the hero scribe with the worker kill, but unfortunately, I could not. A herald on the way for Neblime. Matrix is on the way in the mineral line as well. That extra gateway will definitely funnel the Zerg in certain ways. Well, let's see. I mean, Amaranths are going to stay alive for a very long time before, against pure Zeth Vornath, so... Oh yeah, especially when you steroid them out with the attack speed. It's humongous. Just more static defense right now, or I guess more Larvosks. Yeah, just going straight. It's pure Zeth Vorv right now for Shambler. He's going to stick it out for the time being. Hasn't been harvesting Vespene for a little bit. Got his Avaleth out. Probably going to go for some drops. That's why the Matrix is in there. And he's adding a second one as well. I think Neblime is kind of aware of what Shambler might do. Not just the drops, which are manifesting. But also, another option here is, of course, the Gorgor Core. Something that Shambler has railed against in the past. Exploratory Zethar cores revealing the army composition. Hierophants, Heralds, Zealots, and Amaranths. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty impactful drop over here. Just loading them all up and unloading them at the same time. A couple more Zets. This is a bit risky, obviously, because Shambler doesn't have a natural. He doesn't have any real static defense. He just has some Zerglings equivalents. And there we go. He's actually got more that he's going to unload on top of the Matrix in the back, which makes a lot of sense. So there you go. Smashing through the Grand Library, smashing through the first Matrix. The other one should stay alive. And it does force Neblime's army back into the thick of things. Maybe the Ovaleths will escape. Another Matrix going down. That was a pretty reasonable amount of damage, but he didn't kill too many workers. Maybe, I see 2 worker corpses, so not really great on the economic damage. He does scout the Nexus. Kills some static defense, kills the Grand Library, most importantly. So there will not be any more, like, if Neblime was going for a fast tier 3, like we saw Arbuz do against Ziki earlier today when we casted those games, not going to be able to do that anytime soon. A couple more units still in here. They never actually got unloaded, unfortunately. I don't know if he would have killed more workers if he had done that, but it stands to reason. Just making Ecclesiasts his Neblime, adding Matrixes, guarding his Nexus with some Dracodons, and moving across the map to try to pressure. There's a lot of Zeths, but not a lot of Vorvs, so you don't really have to be too afraid of this position. I love that Neblime sees him burrow and still just walks right up to him. There's not really that much over here, right? Like, Shambler has a lot of Zethicores, but what are you going to do versus this composition? You got to seed that Larvosk. Probably seed that other one as well. All right, here comes the wraparound. Only a couple of Vorvicores. Trying to focus down the Amaranths, and it looks like it is going to work out for him. No more shield sustain on those, and a Herald goes down as well. Well, all of a sudden, he is going to be able to overwhelm this overextension from Neblime, resetting the army, and Shambler just decides to morph a bunch of more Vorvs in his face. So he loses 1 Larvosk, but he wipes the whole army. Definitely a Shambler advantage situation on the map state, even though he's down 10 workers. His hatch does finish at the natural, and he's going to go ahead and load up the Doom Drop one more time, which does make it so that the rest of his standing army is not nearly as impressive. We've got lots of static defense warping in, and Ardent Authority is going to be next in line. A little bit harder to break than the Grand Library, but not by much. And the Zeth Vorv count that is going to be unloaded into the main base should be enough to overwhelm these 2 Matrixes, which is going to force Neblime to make a somewhat painful decision. However, I think with the static defense that he's got at the natural, it takes way more Zeth Vorv to actually overwhelm that than what Shambler has. He is waypointing a ton more units, though. He hasn't actually made any more Droleth. He's added another hatch, and that's about it. So, kind of triggered a Zeth Vorv all-in at this point, but we'll see how soon he decides to transition from. I guess you'd call that a flood as opposed to an all-in, because he is still able to transition from this point, but Neblime is getting to a point of workers where it's just way too much. Dracodons find this drop before it can actually pop out, and this one didn't unload, so there's another situation where it's going to have to be taken care of. But the unit count, rather, is very, very low right now for Neblime. Going after that Matrix again, but not quite able to do too much. He's trying to kill the Ardent Authority before it can make the Acantor as he's attacking the Natural and dismantling some of these units. The Matrix is powering so many shields, though, and that Ardent Authority cannot be overwhelmed. It lives with 20 health. The Acantor will come out at the end of the day. 20, says Shambler. Health, in all caps. Don't worry, you got 1 Zeth. Go kill it with that. Plenty of more Zethicores there. It really is down to the fact that he didn't focus down the Matrix. It shielded him so much. The shield sustain does work on structures. The 1 Zeth helping out over here, killing the Scribe and dismantling that pylon. The unit count is still very, very low for Neblime. A lot of them are out here. If they were in the main base, they could definitely help out. Trying to go after it. He's trying to focus it down, but the shields are still very, very good. He isn't unloading those 2 Zethicores. That might have made the difference, but yet again, he is denied. Blood in the water. But the Killer Instinct bites back. Shambler still hasn't harvested any Vespene. He has made a couple of workers at the very least, but it's a lot of Zeth and a lot of Vorv on the way. That is all he cares to make right now. Listen, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can kill Acantors with that. You can. It is a possibility. And honestly, it's not too bad if you can get like the right combination of Zeth and Vorv, the ratio right for the surround. The Vorvs absorb the shot and ensnare to make the next shot take longer. Oh yeah, he smells it all right. The Acantor is not so far away. Neblime can definitely take this engagement. Shambler does decide to go after it with the Vorvs, and that will result in a regression. You can see that ensnare slowing its attack speed so much. Meanwhile, the Ecclesiasts holding on for dear life, but they will be overwhelmed. Make no mistake about it. That Acantor still at large. Oh, but it will be taken out at the end. And so that will be an army wipe once again. More static defense for Neblime. All he can do in the face of Shambler's wanton aggression. Grand Library was taken out, so Storm not available. Second Acantor already on the field. Third one more than halfway complete. So Neblime should be able to hold with relative ease, but it's a very scary army. Scary number of units. You got to be experienced in Cosmonarchy to know that you're fine in this situation. Gonna lose some workers, but that's okay. Third base on the way for Shambler in the meanwhile, making more Zeths. Any surprises? Not really. Oh, he could maybe go after that Acantor. It's been pulled out a little bit too much, but the Zealot is just going to brace it for impact and more static defense. Warping in, indeed. Scribe trying to pocket base is found by Shambler. Good moves from him. He's going back in for another drop, it looks like. This Dracodon was on patrol, and just as Neblime pulls it away... Oh, no, it is actually on patrol, so Neblime will end up catching it. Prostration stage. That's a juicy target. So, too, is the Ardent Authority. Now, what does Shambler do when the reinforcements start coming up? What does he even go after in this situation? Finally targets the Matrix down, which is definitely the correct move. Softening him up in favor of going after it again later. Maybe if he had like 4 Ovileths full, he could have actually taken down the Ardent, but risky business. Zorkish Shroud finally on the way as he has started harvesting Vespian again. He's got to catch up in workers. It's been pure Zeth Vorv this whole time. And I do feel like Neblime's army composition is not really well suited for this sort of thing. I would have preferred, instead of going Prostration, maybe some Lattices or something, but obviously Neblime knows the tech tree very well. He's one of our most active players and most experienced, longest running, tenured players. So I'm not going to question his judgment. I'm just going to say he's making choices that may require a little bit more setup for him to get any value, especially as another horde of Zeth Vorv is already on the way. Got multiple Acantors. 2 Acantors is not just 2x as good versus this composition as 1 Acantor. It's definitely a more explosive scaling than that. It's not quite linear. But it also comes down to advantages and engagements, and that Acantor should be mincemeat, but we'll see if it can actually end up being overwhelmed. That was a juicy shot at the end there, but it will end up being brought down, and reinforcements coming around. They'll clear all of the Acantors, it looks like, except for the one that just popped out of the natural. Third base might have to be canceled here. There's only the Acantor for defense and a couple of other units. Shambler deciding to dive onto it. He'll go after the Matrix first and the Nexus second. Yeah, that's a cancel. Another round. He's going for more. He might be able to overwhelm, and 5-7 Gorgacores are on the way. Remember, Neblime has been making a ton of static defense. This base is off limits, it feels like, for Gorgs, but we could be proven wrong. Pariahs are on the way. One of them already out. Positrons as well. Shambler will get a rescout on things and see what's going on. Try to go for a bit of a surround onto this composition. 8 Gorgacores. Oh boy, that's going to be a lot, and the Acantor is finally dealt with. I'd love to go after that Positron if I was in Shambler's shoes, but instead he wants to target down the Nexus, which does make a lot of sense. The Pariah increasing that attack speed makes the Positron even more deadly. Oh, it's so close, and it cancels out of safety, but it might have been fine. Neblime has to restart the Nexus yet again, and this is looking very grim. All 8 Gorgs are out. He's going to make another round of Zeth Vorv. Maybe Shambler can actually take this game. The Pariah is going to clear top left. That's an expensive and important unit to be throwing across the map right about now, but the Gorgs are getting scouted by it. All of a sudden, you're no longer as concerned about it. It's not a sudden switch. And he's going after the base with all the matrices. This is to test Neblime's theory. He said that if you make a lot of matrices, the workers don't die very fast. Well, let's see if he's true. Let's see if he's right. The Pariahs are certainly going to help out, and that attack speed will certainly guarantee more value. If those Gorgs had wrapped around over here and gone after the main base, it would have been a very different story, in my opinion. Now, Radium is a map with 1,500 mineral field values. So, you click on these minerals, they have got 1,500 instead of 2,000. And that is a very big difference. It does mean that you mine out about, well, just a few minutes earlier. The Horde of Zeth Vorv has returned. Some Lakids have filtered in. One more Gorg on the way as well. Not that much Vespian in the tank for Shambler, and he is going to go ahead and take 9 o'clock as his 4th. Typically, we see 6 taken instead, so it's interesting how that's changed up in this game. Lots of static defense. Not so much splash damage here, just the Positron. A Pariah does arrive. Pretty important at this point. You can see the pylon walls helping out. Shambler still wants to try it. That Positron a juicy target. The Gorgs decide to ignore the army and go after the workers. The Zeths are just a distraction, and then, as the Gorgs start to munch, we are seeing the Zeths start to fall away. Neblime is making quite a few splash damage units between the positrons. He's got an engram up at the third base, or at the natural, rather. Third base just finished as well. And he obviously has the pariahs for heavy hitters, but the positrons are probably going to be the more consistent damage dealers here. Macro Hatch, Lake is burrowed in, pre-burrowed in certain locations. This is back before their speed nerf, you may have noticed. A couple Gorgs dispatched over in a couple locations, but the Pariah will clean house. Oh, look at that. The Gorgs actually stay alive. A little surprising. We haven't seen a single embassy, so the Lakers are definitely going to cause some trouble as Neblime tries to attack over here, but he's going to need to watch out. And look at this surround. Well, the Vorvs are all alone right now, it feels like. I don't think that the Lakers are coming to help, so the Pariahs are just going to ignore them, laugh at them, in fact. Clear the Gorg as well. If the Lakers had come up with that army, if they had been in a position to do so, it would have been a very different story. Still, a couple of Ecclesiasts will go down. 6 o'clock scouted out and confirmed to not actually exist right now. But 9 o'clock, it's totally blind. Ancestral Archives for Neblime. He's going to be going over for the Tier 4. Pariah Positron. That's pretty much it here. Only 2 Lakers as well, but one of the Positrons does go down, and 9 o'clock is going to be discovered. Zorius in those eggs. Those are not going to hatch. Oh, maybe one of them will. I do love that Shambler is sending the Zorius out somewhere else. The Zeth doesn't quite block the Nexus, but it does scout it out. A Hydra's Den now for Shambler. That's what he wants. Still no Tier 2 for him, of course. More static defense being added. More walls, making it even more difficult for melee units to make it in. There's so many pariahs. It does feel like Neblime is taking command of the game the longer it goes on. And he will, of course, have Optectons if he wants them. But I wouldn't hate Archons in this position. There it is. An Optecton is on the way. Plenty of Lakers. Just a ridiculous number of Lakers, honestly. Most of the army is Lakers. He'll take 6 o'clock as his 4th base after all. A little bit easier for him to defend, it seems. I think it's harder for him to be flexed into in that position. Whereas Neblime can kind of like posture attacking the 3rd and try to attack the 9 o'clock. Whereas 6 o'clock is a bit harder to go from attacking the 3rd or threatening the 3rd to attacking this, since you can hold this ramp. So that's one of the reasons why it's a bit more popular for a 4th base. Really interesting that Neblime has chosen to take top left. That's not what I would have expected. Little does Neblime know, that's like 1/4 of the number of Lakers that are on the field right now. "12 Hydras on the way for Shambler." Well, he's definitely going to have heavier hitters with respect to the Hydras. And remember, the Vorvs and the Rokors that come out of the Zorius help to rend the armor as well. So these pariahs could get focused down. One of them will indeed be munched on. Well, the Shambler's being a little bit lackadaisical about it, but there you go. He finally clears it. Man, there's so many pariahs. That's not even all of them. There's 3 more coming in from the bottom. Flanking in from the east. I don't like this engagement quite for Neblime, but his pariahs are still alive. One of them will go down. That's actually the 2nd to go down in this engagement, and a 3rd gets surrounded. So good pouncing so far. Shambler definitely doing well, but he's going to be led back into the inevitable truth of the Optecton, and so hasn't quite clocked it just yet. Too busy setting up a 5th base and setting up some saturation for that 4th. Now he knows some of his Hydras get cleaned up immediately. That's actually a pretty good pick, because Shambler wanted to droll up to saturate his extra base, but that means that he's going to be a little bit slower to mass up the army. 5th base establishing at 12 o'clock right now for Neblime. They're at about even pace there, but Neblime has more workers and definitely is faster to start mining from his 4th, right? We can say that for sure. It does feel like it's really hard for Shambler to attack into this position. Because look at all this static defense. This is a beautiful wall blocking off that left access way. So he has to come in from this angle and deal with matrices and engrams, all kinds of stuff. Beautiful. Setting up static defense preemptively over here at 12 o'clock. He's got pariahs, uptectons, and he will be empowering those uptectons with Mind Tyrants. Synthetic Synod on the way as well. Probably for Demiurges. This is pre-analog changes, so that they are not nearly as spammable. All right. Shambler's made the decision to macro up and try to saturate both bases, although he is undersaturated in the mineral department for both of them. He's also taking a 6th base in the sort of 4 o'clock location. And his Gorga cores are watching for any harvesting at the 1 satellite base. The one on the left is not being watched right now. String of units. Not Zeth Vorv this time around, although there are some Vorvs still with the army. It's a lot of Hydras instead, making some Lakes as well. Shambler refusing to go to Tier 2 at this point, even though Tier 4 units are out for Neblime. And the Wombo combo of the Mind Tyrant and the Uptecton is pretty outrageous. So most of his army is out of position, and he's going to be trying to crack open this top left base, which, if he can do it, is a very good move. But he's only got a small spattering of Lakes in this position. That is not going to hold it. And he doesn't have so many units in this spot in general. I guess maybe if his Lakes are in the right spots, he can just cede control of this location and just try to hold from here. The one Zetracor seeing at 3 o'clock is operational. Look at this. He's broken through the gateways. Neblime trying to respond with an emergency attack and some defenses, but the Hydras will run roughshod over this army. And the Lakes count is pretty good right about now. They're going to do a lot of damage to those pariahs, which previously felt immortal. The Vorvs soaking up a lot of the damage so that those Lakes stay alive despite the line trace of the Uptectons. And now it does feel like you're in a bit of a holding pattern. How do you egress into this position? There's still so many Lakes! And there's way more even deeper. Top left has been utterly cracked open and caved in. Can't really pounce on the Uptectons without more Vorvs. The Hydras are just going to get turned over, but the Lakes will manage. They will deal with these units. And you can see him going after. He's trying to target down the Mind Tyrants in the back, I think. Yep, one of them goes down. The other one up next. This is what you need to do versus Mind Tyrants, by the way. Force them down. Stop them from being malefactors, enchanting the rest of the army. The Hydras are going to be able to clear 12 o'clock. There is no defense over here for Neblime. Honestly, the fact that Shambler's been able to do this with army rotations and just so many Lakizilisks instead of teching up is very impressive. Neblime thought his static defense emplacement, his palace in the top left, was safe. He was mistaken. The engram loses power. The Demiurge will be targeted next. And even though he stopped this base from going down, he did not take out that one in the bottom right. Gorga cores are still being heckled over here, so still doing some heckling. They'll kill a Dracodon. Very nice. Maelstrom's out, but, well, actually, it's pretty good hits. Unfortunately, he's got no anti-air over here, so those Mind Tyrants are just going to get munched on by the Gorgs. The Positrons are a thing of the past. No anti-air is present over here. I can't believe what I'm seeing. A Dracodon goes down. His static defense isn't up. Oh, no, the Mind Tyrants are all dead. And now here comes an attack. It's not actually that big right now. Shambler doesn't have a lot of ground units that aren't Lakes, and he's keeping those Lakes down in the bottom right. But now the Gorgs are munching on the static defense before they can really get up. The Demiurge, the Pariah, they're going to try to turn those Gorgs to the dark side, but it doesn't quite look like it's going to matter. The Hydras are going to get cleaned up anyway, so that will be more than enough. The Demiurge will be able to take control of some of those Gorgs. Actually, it looks like the Demiurge walked away, so it didn't quite project the power. Hydroflock coming over there, but there's no basis for them to attack, which is actually a good thing for Shambler. Dude, he's got so many Zeth Vorv. What even is the play here? He's having to remake his Mind Tyrants. Neblime has kept his Uptectons alive for the most part. But does he have anything that can deal with this Gorg stack? The Pariah is going to get so many juicy hits. It needs way more than that, though. Oh, it's so dangerous here. There's another Pariah, but it's not attacking. Oh, the Uptectons. They're doing their best. They are doing their best, but the Vorvs are slowing their attack speed quite a bit, and the Pariahs go down pretty soon after. It does look like those endgame units, that composition, and the way that Shambler actually clumped up on top of the Pariahs really helped him out. But now the Hydras are heckling over here. They do a little bit of damage to the static defense. They even pop a gateway, which at this point, every unit that Neblime can make is very, very worthwhile. He might end up losing an Uptecton, but the damage has been split across all three of them. Shambler's like trying his best to not kill the Uptectons, it feels like. And now he's going to kind of double back with the rally. Still has so many Lakes that if he actually used right now, it would be so easy for him to It feels like, anyway. It's so easy for him to clean this up. Mind Tyrant reemerges, and Archon clears everything in the upper area. It just scouts that it's clear, ready for more bases to be taken. Knows 9 o'clock hasn't been retaken, and this base hasn't been retaken here at 4 either. So Shambler will start to worry about mining out, and he never really well saturated his bases to begin with. He could definitely transfer these workers over from the depleted bases. Starting to make Bactylisks as well. Remember, Shambler is doing all of this on Tier 1, so there is a point where there's enough technical units out for Tier 4 and Tier 3 that Neblime's army will just become a little bit unapproachable, and you are going to need to tech up a little bit. But Shambler doesn't want to do that. 22 pairs of Zeths, 8 Hydras, and of course another hatch, this time at 4 o'clock, finally retaking that base. Not sure what happened to the Archon. Maybe it, Nope, no idea. It definitely didn't die to Zetricors, I can tell you that much. Yeah, it's joined up with the rest of the army. So Scouts 12 o'clock being reset. Some scribes are already there. And there's Tier 2, finally! At 26 minutes, Tier 2 has started. I don't know how that Vorv got there. Perambulation. 9 o'clock, vanguarded by the Ecclesiast. Static defense up here is pretty good, so that will be very cost efficient for Neblime, but he will end up losing the space if he doesn't rotate his army down. And I just don't even know if he has an army to rotate down to begin with. The engrams should be the main targets here. Normally you go after the Matrix, but you really need to clear out those engrams because they're dealing so much splash damage. So yep. Again, a lot of dead Zerg units here, but losing another base is still a good move. Positive EV for Shambler, especially if he evacuates his Hydras. He doesn't actually need to sick onto the Nexus because the workers are stopped mining already. He's done his damage. But he will kill it. Not bad. Just needs to see if he can get out of dodge without losing all of his expensive Hydra units. You know, Hydra, Bactyl, etc. The Zeth Vorv you can lose any day of the week. Now he's going to go ahead and reset his Lake is get them out of the bottom right base and get them into the 4 o'clock. Just in time, too, as the pariahs are indeed here. Oh, that hatch actually forcibly unburrows a couple of them, so that was a bit of a miss. We are looking very dangerous right about now. The Mind Tyrant is too far away. Okay, now it links up. So we will indeed have that mind control from the Malefactor. The Hatrosk is body blocking and ranging it down. Pretty big Zerg flock coming in to bisect the army and maybe try to come in from a top rope situation. The Demiurge might get overwhelmed by Zetricors of all things. You got to watch out for that. Oh yeah, those guys got to get the hell out of dodge. There's workers over here as well. I mean, what do you do in this situation? It's kind of a weird spot where Neblime now has to chase this army down so that his technical units don't end up getting crushed. They did evacuate back to the base, but now an Optecton is in danger. Yeah, Shambler's army in a bit of an awkward position. His Tier 2 is done, but he's not actually using it just yet. I don't know who's going to win this game. I'm going to be honest with you guys. For a while, I was pretty sure that Shambler had a huge advantage, so I was going to go ahead and say Neblime would win because Shambler can't win. But now Shambler doesn't have a huge advantage, it feels like. And so Neblime must lose now, right? That's like this flip. The script flips over. Yeah. Storming in over here. 4 o'clock is no longer operable. Shambler really didn't have too many workers there anyway. He's going to try to fight the army, but remember, this is Tier 3, Tier 4, well-satted army. The Mind Tyrant getting focused down is one thing, but the Demiurges are still at large, and they will control all of the Hydras on behalf of the fallen Mind Tyrants. Just not enough here for Shambler. Still a long way to go before he types GG, if he types GG at all. I can't win with only Tier 1. And there you go. Even though Shambler did make his Tier 2 structure, he will not type GG. Neblime claims victory. I can't believe it. I can believe it, but I can't believe it that Neblime took that game. Poor Shambler. One day he'll win with Tier 1.